Hello everyone, this is the Insert Title Show and I'm your host, Wolf Strife, and on this episode I am going to be talking about basically which game I think is a better World War One game, either Darkest of Days or Battlefield 1. And to tell you the truth, I'm not really sure right now. I guess I'll just go through the thinking process with you here. First of all, I'm a big fan of both games. I think Battlefield 1 is a awesome game, and I think Darkest of Days is a very underrated game. I mean, Darkest of Days was a budget game that came out, God, I don't even know, 2009, I want to say. And it was a very ambitious, very cool game for the time, and it's still a very unique game. I haven't seen a first-person shooter that had a couple of hundred guys on screen at once. I haven't seen that since. Like, to put that in perspective, I think the most soldiers you see on screen in Battlefield 1 is like 20 or 30. So, yeah, it's very impressive what they were able to do with that game. And hell, the budget for just the multiplayer on Battlefield 1 was probably bigger than the entire budget for Darkest of Days. So, yeah, it was very impressive what those guys were able to do with Darkest of Days. I think overall I might like Darkest of Days as a game more than Battlefield 1. I know that sounds kind of crazy to some of you, but I really like Darkest of Days. I like the story, I like the characters. I know they're probably never going to have the money to make a sequel, but maybe somebody could do a book series on it or something. Because it's a really cool idea. Basically, in the future, there's this company that uses people to travel back in time to find out the great unsolved mysteries of the past, like who built Stonehenge and what happened to the Mayans and all that stuff. And the people they use to time travel are soldiers from the past who are about to be killed in their own time. Like the main character in the game, Alexander Morris, who happens to share the name with one of my nephews, kind of weird. He was a soldier with the 7th Cavalry at the Battle of Little Bighorn, and right before he was killed by Sioux Indians, they come in and swoop him out and bring him to the future and turn him into one of their time travelers. And his mentor in the game, Dexter, is a cool guy. He was a firefighter on 9/11, and right before the towers came down, they swooped in and got him. So yeah, he's a cool guy, and he basically just shows you, the ropes of time traveling and stuff. So yeah, that's a cool idea. And then Darkest of Days, you get to go back to all kinds of different time periods and fight different battles like Antietam, Tannenberg. You get to go to Poland in World War II. That was pretty cool. And the last mission is you get to go to the city of Pompeii right as Vesuvius is beginning its eruption. So yeah, that's really fucking cool. Now, the only part of Darkest of Days I should really compare Battlefield 1 to is obviously the World War One levels that take place during the Battle of Tannenberg. And the reason why I thought of doing this episode is because I thought the battles in Battlefield 1 weren't really as accurate as I would have liked them to be. And just the way the game looks, like at nighttime there's a lot of blues and stuff instead of it being pitch black. That kind of bothers me, and just the lack of trench warfare and that kind of stuff bothered me too. I guess the first level in Battlefield 1 is probably the most accurate level in the entire game for the most part, as far as infantry combat went during the war. But hell, the first couple of levels of Tannenberg and Darkest of Days were very accurate. I mean, you start off right in the middle of trench warfare, fighting on the Russian side against the Germans, and you can snipe some German soldiers attacking your trench, or you can hop on a Maxim machine gun, mow them down. I mean, that's World War One, and you can use your bayonet and stuff to kill Germans with. And another cool thing about it was that the Russians all spoke Russian. You had no idea what they were saying because Alexander Morris had no idea what they were saying. And all the Germans spoke German, and you didn't know what they were saying either. But you got the message. And there were a lot of cool parts in the Tannenberg missions. You get to, like I said, hold a trench line, and that's really cool. You can even fly in a Zeppelin later on in the game and drop bombs and snipe from it and stuff. That was really cool. And you get attacked by gas, which wasn't accurate because gas wasn't used in World War One until like 1915, I want to say. But, whatever. Maybe, what's interesting in the game is you and Dexter are the only ones who have gas masks. So when the gas attack happens, you actually stand there and watch all your Russian comrades, if you will, die a horrible death. So maybe there was nobody around to actually say, hey, the Germans used gas on us. So, yeah, guess you could look at it that way. And cool thing, too, in Darkest of Days, near the end of the game, you actually switch sides to the German side. And you get to basically look at the battle from a whole new perspective, and that was really cool. And that kind of bothered me in Battlefield 1 that you didn't have a Central Powers point of view in the game. Like, I definitely would have loved running around as a German stormtrooper or something. Like, especially during the Kaiserschlacht. That would have been really freaking cool. They had a couple of missions of that, and I don't know, running around the Alps as an Austrian or fighting the Romanians or something like that, and maybe be an Ottoman soldier fighting the Russians. That would have been pretty cool. And again, I think what made Darkest of Days so unique was just how big these battles were, especially the Civil War parts of the game where you literally have 200 to 300 soldiers in a line firing at each other. I mean, that's crazy. I don't know why the big companies like EA and Activision can't do a game that has that. Like, imagine what EA and DICE could do with a couple of hundred soldiers on screen. Just how epic that would fucking be. Like, imagine having to hold your trench line against that. You could switch from being on a machine gun or hopping in a artillery piece and firing into that. I mean, that would just be insane. And I just wish that EA and DICE had done a bit more of that in Battlefield 1. Like, really have some big battles here, guys. I mean, doing this one guy against 2 or 3 or 5 guys is okay, but it's been done in every fucking first-person shooter game since GoldenEye and Doom and Return to Castle, Wolfenstein and all that stuff. Like, give me something, new and unique and epic like they had in Darkest of Days. And it's really sad that game companies haven't explored that a bit more. These just having large-scale battles and stuff, it just kind of sucks. I mean, look at the game Viking, just how big those battles were and just how epic that was. You don't see any third-person medieval games with that many soldiers around nowadays, and it's like, what the fuck? I thought technology and graphics and what you can do in a game was supposed to progress, not just remain the same. So, that kind of bugs me. But naturally, Battlefield 1 had a ton of advantages over Darkest of Days. Like, you could fly airplanes and drive tanks and stuff, and that was fucking cool. Granted, airplanes weren't a big deal during the Battle of Tannenberg, and tanks weren't around yet, so I guess you could kind of give Darkest of Days some slack for that, but, whatever. And the graphics, I have to say, in Battlefield 1 aren't really that good. Like, even in the beta, I was like, The people in Battlefield 1 look about as good as the people did in Halo 4. And seeing how that came out like 3 or 4 years ago, that's not really saying a whole lot. But naturally, the graphics in Darkest of Days weren't anything to write home about. But again, it was a budget game, so the graphics aren't going to be state-of-the-art in any way. But it looks pretty good for just how big the maps are and how many soldiers are on it. I mean, that's a decent-looking game. But I do remember one critic, I read his review of the game, complaining that Darkest of Days, the colors were too plain, like there was just too much brown and green and stuff. But I'm like, yeah, that's kind of what the ground looks like, brah. At least it's not all blue like Battlefield 1 is, but whatever. So I guess I would say overall, Darkest of Days is maybe a more accurate representation of World War I infantry combat, but I think overall Battlefield 1 is a better World War I game, but considering what Darkest of Days was and is, it's a pretty impressive game, I have to say. I just wish, though, that Battlefield 1 had maybe taken some components of Darkest Days, like the size of the battles and even some of the components from Brothers in Arms, like the squad commands and the violence. I would have appreciated that. But overall, I would say Battlefield 1 is a better World War I game. But I think Valiant Hearts is still the best World War I game of all time, so yeah.